Harvard astrophysicists say ancient life might have escaped our Earth and journeyed to alien stars. Two Harvard astrophysicists have proposed a mind-blowing theory about how life might have spread throughout the universe. Imagine this. Centuries ago, back when the solar system was more crowded, a huge comet damaged the outer layers of our atmosphere. It was moving quick, several of miles above the Earth's surface, too high to burn up as a fireball, but low enough that the atmosphere slowed it down a little bit. Extremely small microbes were floating up there in its way, and some of those organisms survived the confrontation with a giant ball of ice. These microbes ended up deep within the comet's porous surface, protected from radiation of deep space as the comet moved away from Earth and eventually way out of the solar system entirely. Thousands or maybe millions of years passed before the comet reached up in another solar system with life-supporting planets, and eventually the comet crashed into one of those planets, depositing the microbes, a few of them still living, and set up a new outpost for earthly life in the universe. You could call it interstellar panspermia, the seeding of distant star systems with exported life. We have no idea whether this ever actually happened, and there's a mountain of reasons to be skeptical, but in their new paper, Amir Shiraj and Avi Loeb, both astrophysicists at Harvard University, argue that at least the first part of this story, the depositing of the microbes into the comet that gets ejected from the solar system, should have happened between one and a few dozen times in Earth's history. Siraj told Live Science that although a lot more work needs to be done to back up the finding, it should be taken seriously, and that the paper may have been, if anything, too conservative in its estimate of the number of life-exporting events. While the study's concept may seem far-fetched, humanity is constantly confronted with seeming impossibilities, like Earth going around the sun, or quantum physics, or bacteria hitching a ride into the galaxy aboard a comet. That turned out to be true, Siraj said. And there's been reasons to suspect that it might be possible. A series of experiments using small rockets in the 1970s found colonies of bacteria in the upper atmosphere. Comets really do enter and leave our solar system from time to time, and Siraj and Loeb's calculations show that it's plausible, maybe even likely. This has happened to large comets that graze our Earth. Comets are porous and might actually shield microbes from deadly radiation. Some microbes can survive a remarkably long time in space. That alone is reason for scientists to take the idea seriously, Siraj said, and for researchers from fields like biology to jump in and figure out some of the details. It's a brand new field of science, he said. However, Stephen Kane, an astrophysicist at University of California, Riverside, told Live Science that he was deeply skeptical of the suggestion that microbes from Earth might have actually turned up alive on alien planets through some version of this process. The first problem would occur when the comet slammed into our atmosphere, he said. Siraj and Loeb pointed out that some bacteria can survive extraordinary accelerations, but the precise mechanism by which the microbes could adhere to the comet is not clear, Kane said. Since the aerodynamic forces around the comet might make it impossible for any microbes to reach the surface and work their way deep enough below the surface to be protected from solar radiation. It's also not clear, he said, whether any microbes would really have been high up in our atmosphere in the first place. Those rocket experiments from the 1970s are old and questionable, he said, and we still don't have a good picture of what the biology of the upper atmosphere really looks like today, let alone hundreds of millions of years ago, when comet encounters were much more common. The biggest question, though, Kane said, is what would happen to the microbes after they landed aboard the comet. It's plausible, he said, that some bacteria might survive decades in space, long enough to reach, say, Mars, but there's little direct evidence that any bacteria might survive the thousands or millions of years necessary to travel to another habitable star system. And that's really the key idea of this paper. Researchers have long suggested that debris from major collisions might blast life around between our solar system's planets and the moons, but exporting life to an alien star system likely requires a more specialized scenario. Still, Keynes said the calculations in this study of how precisely a comet might skim through the Earth's atmosphere were new to him and that they were very interesting. He said Siraj did not strongly challenge any of Keynes' concerns, but reframed them one by one as opportunities for further study, and he wants to know, he said, precisely what the biology of the upper atmosphere looks like and how comets might react to it. There's reason to think that at least some bacteria might survive super long trips through deep space, he said, based on how robust they are under extreme conditions on Earth and in orbit. But for now, it's time for scientists across fields to jump in and start filling in the gaps, Siraj said. This is from Live Science on Infinity Explorers. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box.